Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. I'm Stephanie Fisher. I'm a licensed counselor here in the state of Michigan, and I am owner and operator of In Progress Counseling. Now, a few weeks ago, I had spoken about kind of a pervasive sense of anxiety. And so we're going to develop kind of something that for me holds hands with anxiety. And this is actually, this happens quite often clinically, that we have specific pathways that our fear goes down when we are uncertain, when we are in transition, when we are overwhelmed, when we, have fear and when we're scared. And so my particular pathway is OCD tendencies, and my OCD tendency is environmental management. Now, one of the goals of OCD is to make order out of perceived chaos. Now, is it actually chaos? Who's to say? But if something feels habitually chaotic, especially when we're young, sometimes our brain will organize in some sort of hyper rigid structure and ask us to adhere to certain protocols and rhythms and rituals. So for some people it's hoarding, for some people it's checking, for some people it's repetitive action. For me, it happens to be environmental management, where I will tidy up anything and everything around me. Now, what's lovely about that is I actually bring that into my life wherever I go. I have a pretty high ethic around I want to leave things nicer than when I found them. Now, that's a choice. But when there's a high distress season going on, it stops being as much of a choice as it is a compulsion. Now it's this kind of frantic need to control things around me, so I feel the perception of control when there's a perceived chaos or a dis-ease that I'm experiencing. Now, thankfully, I know how to language it. I know how to point to it and say, hey, that's what's happening. But it's such a predictable pathway that my fear follows that, if anything, it just gets to be my alarm sound when something is incredibly uncomfortable for me. So what that means is I don't really, as of right now, have a pathway out of that type of response. I only know that it shows up rarely because I have really increased my tolerance for distress. I've languaged it, I process my emotions, and there's still seasons of life where big, overwhelming things happen, and OCD is a very predictable pathway for my brain to go down. And so as there's this big transitioning happening right now, and as there's a big school demand happening, this little, finicky, frustrating pathway has shown up again, where I walk into home, and if it's not looking a particular way, okay, I get a little frustrated. Okay, it happens again, I get a little more frustrated. Okay, it happens again, and I start to frantically clean. Okay, it starts to, get dirty again, and I combust. I have big, overwhelming frustration. I have big, overwhelming emotion. That's not uncommon when I put it into the seasonal framework of these next couple weeks are going to be really, really demanding and challenging. They're going to ask me to do things that have a little bit of the imposter syndrome attached to it. They're going to ask me to do things that feel especially vulnerable, and it's going to ask me to make requests of other people. Those are really difficult things for me, and this predictable pathway shows up as my alarm system saying, hey, things feel unsettled, or things feel unsafe, or things feel uncomfortable. Now, someday I hope that OCD is not a thing for me. Right now, in seasons of high distress, it's still my alarm system to say, hey, you're really struggling right now. And so the way I work it through with clients is we have to call it by its name. We point to it and say, yes, that's my OCD. My OCD tries to make sense of the world around me. It tries to superimpose order when things feel chaotic. I'm not doing it on purpose. What I do is I invite my loved ones into it and say, hey, this is what's happening, and these are ways you could maybe support me, but also these are the things I'm doing to help support myself. The reality is it's a part of how my brain under stress has organized since about age 6. That's just what it is. And so calling it by its name, reminding myself that it makes sense in this season, doing things that don't make it worse, but work on making it better, reminding myself to communicate things clearly, those are the things I can do in spite of the fact that this tendency has shown up. And that really extrapolates out to when we are in seasons of fear. Typically we have patterns. Mine happens to have a diagnostic name. Some of your patterns might not have a diagnostic name. They might have cultural names. They might be called pretty pejorative things if we, outburst on people or we shut down or what have you. but we have predictable pathways, and it's helpful to call them by their name, say, this is what's happening, this is why it's here now, these are the things I'm doing to help it, these are the ways I'm inviting loved ones into understanding the experience without trying to punish them for it or without trying to make them responsible for it. We're just saying, this is where I'm at, and this helps explain why. Hopefully I'm articulating that well today. Now, because I have this running for me right now, I want to go back over the last 5 minutes and make sure I said everything just so precisely so I can control outcomes. But that's my OCD talking. So anyway, that's also me talking. I want to take ownership. It is a part of how I navigate the world. That is true. But it shows up in seasonally appropriate ways, indicating to me that there are felt perceptions of vulnerability, felt perceptions of risk that I'm taking, felt perceptions of, something could go wrong here. It's part of how my brain organizes. I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's bad, I just know that's what my brain does, and it's my job to be responsible with that understanding.